YouTube Ozick going. The Goat House is back. After day 2 of the NFL Combine, the defensive backs took the field today. I'm here to break it all down, give you my biggest winners and how their stock kind of changed. We'll talk about some losers, some fallers here, possibly in the draft after the Combine as well. Pretty much the same video as yesterday. We did the same thing for day 1. We'll do the same thing for day 3 and 4. So if you haven't seen that day 1 video, go check it out. We'll have a post-Combine mock draft after. We're covering free agency, trades, the draft, everything NFL here at the Goat House. So like, subscribe to notifications out. Follow us on Twitter, live updates for the Combine and NFL news and rumors on there. It's on your screen. There's also a link pinned in the comments. Also a link down below for our Discord that you can now join, and our sponsors, GLD Shop, Liquid IV, Walk the Mock. We have codes for all those sites. GLD Shop has some sick NFL chains and more jewelry, kind of like the Eagles one that I have on right now. So cool stuff there, very affordable with our code. Again, any link you're looking for, pin in the comments. So going over the biggest winners of the defensive backs, day 2 of the NFL Combine. We're going to start with the biggest winner in my opinion. He's kind of been a huge winner on the week for me, Deontay Banks, the corner from Maryland. And I say that because I actually caught some of his film earlier this week. And, boy, I'm impressed. You know, he's been getting some buzz, too. People have been sneaking him in the first round, and mainly the talk's been these other big-name corners. And I could see the hype. I talked about it earlier in the week with the preview video I did. I could see the hype. I mean, a fantastic man coverage corner, but instinctive enough where I see some upside in zone. Seen some good reps in cover 3. So impressed there. And I knew he would probably test pretty well because he's really good at man coverage because he's able to stick with some fast receivers in the Big Ten specifically. But this is even better than I thought he'd test. 4.35 is absolutely flying. I knew he'd be fast. You know, it doesn't surprise me too much, but if I thought best case maybe 4.38, so we're not too far off there. But 11.4 broad is ridiculous. The 42-inch vertical, I mean, it's ridiculous. The guy can get up, and you want to see this from your corners. I mean, he's one of the faster guys out there. You don't really need him to be the fastest guy out there, but he happens to be one of the fastest guys out there. But how explosive he is and how good his tape is as well, just not really getting talked about enough. I know people are starting to hype him up a little bit, though. But to me, probably the biggest winner on the day, kind of solidified himself of where I was kind of getting towards there. But yeah, probably went from late round 1. I was kind of about to sneak him up mid round 1 anyways. But he, after the fact here, probably mid at the latest. He could go early round 1, like not in the very top of the draft, but somewhat early. I can see as well, just because, I mean, you got a man coverage corner, really good man coverage corner with freak athletic traits, and I think he's instinctive, and I think he can play zone. I've seen some good plays playing, in zone, but you don't want to have to come in the NFL, bring a guy in the NFL and have to teach man coverage. You don't want to have to do that. You don't have to do that with a guy like Banks. But yeah, middle of the first round, I can see up to the Eagles, maybe looking for a Bradbury replacement, depending on Sean Desai, new defensive coordinator, what he wants to run, there. But last year they ran a mixture of, it was mainly cover 1 and cover 2. Saw some 6 out there as well. But the latest he'll go is the Vikings, in early 20s there. It's actually a perfect fit for Brian Flores in the Vikings. I mean, I'm a Vikings fan. This is kind of like a dream pick for me, but just looking at the Vikings need a corner more than anybody, but a perfect scheme fit for Brian Flores. Like, not only do they need a corner really badly, Brian Flores likes to run, let's say cover 1, but man coverage in general, cover 1, cover 0, but he likes cover 3 as well. Just feels like Deontay Banks. You got to be able to press and run with guys. It just feels like Deontay Banks. I think that's the latest. I don't think he gets by that pick. I really don't. I think he's going to go earlier than that. So this is a big winner here. Maybe you look around the Commanders pick, the Steelers, possibly those defensive-minded coaches could really like Banks as well, as high as the Eagles, like I said. Just a massive winner, Deontay Banks, a sure thing first-round corner here. Speaking of Maryland, Jacory Bennett, not the biggest name, had a pretty good day. And I'm not just going to sit here and throw guys up there that had the fastest 40, and we happen to have 2 guys that, had some of the fastest 40s there, but it's not just about that, but a little bigger than I thought he was going to come in at, in terms of the length. 5'11", 188 is pretty good size for him. I thought he'd be a little undersized, the measurables, but good length for that size. And then, so adding on top of that, the really good testing numbers, the 4.3, the 11.1, it's kind of the bonus here, the 40.5 vert obviously. But yeah, kind of not really a big name like a later day 3. Like, what do you do with this guy? Maybe probably a nickel at the next level. Does he have the size? Again, bigger than I thought he'd be. So that was kind of the start there, and then having the big time testing numbers. The nickel corner, the slot corner spot is very important. He's more important than ever in the NFL these days. So finding a guy with these traits could be pretty ideal, a guy we want to work with there. And I think he can play outside as well. So I thought he helped himself across the board, not really just all about the 40-yard dash, which he was the second fastest on the day, which is good. But it's not all about that there. So, yeah, maybe a day 3 guy to kind of look out for there. Maybe was a possibly undrafted guy before that. Probably not. But he had a pretty good tape, too. But, should be talked about a little bit more, perhaps. Christian Gonzalez, maybe didn't boost his stock a whole lot because there was not, for good reasons, not a whole lot of room to grow. He was kind of already at the top there, but just a fantastic outing. Long. We knew, he actually weighed a little bit more than I know. Oregon had him listed heavier, but I didn't think he was nearly as heavy as they had him listed. But he was actually heavier than I thought. Maybe a little bit more bulky, which is good because that was kind of the only downside. He's a little thin frame, isn't super flashy when it comes to the tackles, but he'll wrap you up and bring you down. That was really the only downside, which isn't much at all. 6'1", 197, so a pretty good size there. He has the length as well, really lengthy. But the 4.38, I would have been good in the 4.4s with him because he's such a good ball player, and 4.4s is flying as it is for a guy his size. So 4.38 and the broad 11.1, the vert 41.5, which is ridiculous too, getting up there. So kind of showing everything. Like he's quick, he's got the strides, the length, the explosiveness. So before I had him as cornerback 1 since early in the season. People were kind of questioning it earlier in the season, but now everyone's kind of understanding. But yeah, I still think most people had Witherspoon. You still might have Witherspoon over Gonzalez. There's some people had Gonzalez under cornerback 1 or 2, but now I think he's locked in. I kind of was already confident he'd be the first corner. I mean, you never know. The draft's not here yet. It didn't happen yet. It could be unpredictable at times for sure, but I just feel like he's locked in at that cornerback 1. I mean, the combination of everything here, not just the combine stuff, but that's a bonus. Measurables, size, I guess measurables, and the athletic traits that he presented here, but and on field too. But we already saw that on the field in pads against an offense, the on-field stuff, that he's so smooth, the footwork's great. That's why he's a lockdown guy, but he's a playmaker. He's both of those. Like, you fear him, you throw away from him, but when you throw his side, he actually can jump the route and make a play on the ball. A little bit like a Patrick Surtain. Could make that type of impact we saw a couple years ago at Alabama there. So Gonzalez should have locked himself in the, not only as cornerback 1, but inside the top 10. These corners are taking over today's NFL. It's not like it used to be kind of a lengthy process to develop some of these guys. I mean, they could be decent right away, but, the guys went earlier than expected last year, maybe mainly Stingley, but we saw the impact those types of guys like Sauce Gardner made as early as they went. So teams won't be afraid to pull the trigger on what feels like a sure thing guy here and a big time prospect. So he helped himself. He didn't really have a whole lot of room in a good way, like we said, but he helped himself for sure. Darius Rush, the South Carolina corners looked pretty solid, both of them in general. We'll talk about Cam Smith in a little bit, but Darius Rush really stood out to me. Like, Cam Smith's he's a little better. And Cam Smith, we've seen him play inside and outside as well, mainly an outside guy. But Rush, 6'2", 198, it's a good size. And I listed the arm length there, 33 3/8. That is long. That is really long. I was not really expecting that. I guess you can see the length on him when watching him play, but that's good because, some teams will only draft a guy like 32. Most teams, you can be a little bit under 32 and above, and they just love working with the guys that are well above the 32 mark. But they have to have something to go along with it. They have to have solid play and then good, athletic traits as well. And Rush showing those things across the board. 4.36, a ridiculous time. I knew he was a little freaky, but this was much better than expected. And it was a pretty good showing at the Senior Bowl as well. So this definitely helped on top of that. I think because the Senior Bowl, you kind of see him in around the range of round 3. But, a guy that teams want to work with, we're talking round 2. There's some other guys in that conversation as well. But when you're looking at these guys, they're round 2 talents. I'd rather work with the guy that's got the 33 3/8 arms, because those guys are freaky. Those guys are taking over today's NFL, and the 4.36 40 on top of it. I'd rather work with that guy, So it could be sneaking in a late round too. So that was wasn't super like shocking, but a little bit of a pleasant surprise there with Darius Rush there, one of the South Carolina corners. Next, Julius Brents, which with the 40, I thought he'd run a little faster. He was in the 4.5s, which is still, people forget, or people kind of get spoiled, I guess, with these 4.3 guys, 4.2 guys, but 4.5 is still moving. It's definitely still moving. But he's still a big winner. I mean, the freakish arm length, 34. I mean, insane. Like, just rare type of guys. You don't see corners like this, but I mean, the guys you do see, I mean, Sauce Gardner was pretty freaky too. It's just guys you want to work with, and he has the movement skills. He has the play under his belt, like the good play. He played at Iowa, who's a really well-coached zone defense, and he goes to Kansas State, and he's top tier there at the Big 12 level. And you see, guys that are just that, 6'3", almost 6'4", the arm length like that, to be that explosive, the 41.5-inch vert, the 11.6, I mean, those are insane numbers. To be that explosive with that kind of gifted arm length, it's like this is a guy that coaches want to work with. Like, we want to not only get a corner out there, we want to get this freaky corner that's going to make it not only harder on receivers, but quarterbacks as well. With the ball placement, it's got to be tweaked maybe, because freaky guys like this, so coaches want to work with these guys even when they don't even have the best tape. But Brents has got really good tape. Had a really good outing at the Senior Bowl. Again, good experience at, you didn't get on the field a whole lot at Iowa, but a good experience there. And then especially at Kansas State, I've been moving him up and up, more and more here, but probably was around like average, was probably around mid round 2, maybe even late. I think you can go late round 1. I really do. And with there's so many. The corner class is ridiculous. It could end up going down as one of the better ones we've ever seen. But again, there's going to be a zone defense late first round. It could be early second still. I mean, right around the same range. Remember, we only have 31 picks in the first round. But there's going to be a zone defense back there that, like, they're going to want a zone defense that runs some man as well. With his length, his athleticism, you do want him. You want them one-on-one at times as well. You're daring teams to throw the one-on-one down the sideline against guys like this. So, a team that runs a lot of zone, but, doesn't abandon the man coverage, later in the first round, I can see it. They're going to want to work with a guy like this. So, definitely a guy to look out for there. He won the day the second with that arm length, the second he measured in there, but then he had the length with the explosiveness. I think the combination of all of that is just pretty damn rare. Talk about some safeties. Illinois safety Sidney Brown, who was kind of a winner at the Senior Bowl as well. Not the longest guy, 5'10", 211, got a good size to him, obviously, but runs a 4.47. And he's one of those guys you watch on tape, and yeah, he does fly to the ball. Like, he's one of those like high motor guys that fly to the ball. It's just, for some reason, those guys sometimes that they fly to the ball because their first step and because they're instinctive. Usually they don't test as well as what you see on the field, but he tested as well. 4.47, phenomenal for him. Broad jump 10.10, vert is getting up there at 40.5. Before he was probably around round 3, round 4, and then you get to the Senior Bowl, and then you think you could boost it up, but he still really wasn't getting talked about that much. You thought he should have been talked about around round 2 there, but probably was still sitting in an early third, but now I think you definitely talk about that second round conversation. But not only that, he's a little bit of a question mark still. We got to go through the tape, but serious question, like, is he safety 1? He definitely could be. And I'm talking about true safeties. A lot of these guys that are nickel guys, like Brian Branch is mainly like a nickel slot guy there. I think same with a guy like Antonio Johnson. You look at Sidney Brown, and you look at a guy like Jordan Battle, perhaps from Alabama, the best true safeties. And Brown, you see him make, see what his ball skills, the playmaking ability in the back end, kind of playing like a free safety role, but really stands out, attacking downhill, playing strong safety as well. But they moved him around a bit. He'll probably fit more of a strong safety in the NFL. But in terms of a true safety, not really a nickel guy, it's not the strongest class in terms of like the actual safeties, and he could be at the top. He could be at the top of that class. So a big time winner there. Speaking of Illinois, they got some ball players on that defense. It was very unfortunate we didn't get to see Witherspoon, but Illinois has been pumping out some good defenders, and Jartavius Martin had a really good showing, the defensive back from Illinois, and he played a little bit in the slot, and he played some free safety. Like we talked about Brown when he moved up. We saw Martin kind of go back at times as well. He looks, 5'11", 194 is plenty. He's just under 6 foot. You wish these guys were six feet tall, but in 194 is a good build. But he looks. Usually those guys, maybe they're you're worried about the length. They're not lengthy enough. He's got the length, but he looks even bigger than that. And again, that's big enough. 5'11", 194. It's like a win that he measured in with all those things. But even seeing him out there, he's souped up. He looks like he's longer, bigger than that. But again, he's bigger. He's big and long enough. But then he runs a 4.46, fantastic. Broad jump 11.1, and the best vert at the combine so far at 44 inches. It's just absurd. Like how does a souped up guy like that jump that high? Wasn't getting talked about much before, but he's a little on the underrated side. The Illinois guys are so good too on defense. Probably was like around round 5, possibly round 4, but I think he's moving all the way up. Round 3, you start to think about it a little bit more, like because what he is, we talked about, he's a nickel guy, and we seen him play a little free safety. That it kind of sounds like Daxton Hill last year, like. He played some nickel corner, and then you kind of lined up at free safety a little bit. Looked pretty good there. And then the Bengals kind of draft him, for that free safety spot. So, is he as talented as Daxton Hill? No. And, can you fully compare them? Not really, but some similarities there on what they played a bit of at the college level. But I think that's a good thing that he's kind of versatile there, and he'll probably be a nickel corner. But you look at the rest of this you got to use the air quotes, the safety group. Some of these guys, and why I do that, some of these guys really aren't safeties. We kind of talk about Cindy Brown, like could he be the best true safety? Because the guys kind of listed at the top, are they really safeties? They're nickel guys like Brian Branch, Antonio Johnson. They're nickel guys that can play safety. And then Martin's kind of that same situation. He's a nickel guy. He's just as good at the free safety spot though. And those other guys that I mentioned are better in the slot than Martin. Martin's he's freakier than those guys, so a guy you want to work with. But looking at all of them in their versatile, like their next spot, safety, Martin's either just as good as those guys talked about in the first round or maybe even better at that spot. So you see the versatility and the really good play, and he'll probably be a starting slot guy at some point here. And then you factor in the build on him, the size, even though it's not freaky size, but then the freaky athleticism. For those reasons, like all combined, I think it really shoots him up. We could be talking about him in day 2. There's some, I know he was with the safety group. The safety group isn't considered that strong, but there's some really good slot guys and somewhat versatile guys in this group. So don't sleep on those types of players there. And then some other guys that I do want to talk about here. DJ Turner, you probably maybe expected him to be on one of the big winners, and he ran the fastest 40 of the day in the 4.2s. That is ridiculous. You're a big winner for that alone. In today's era, speed kills, obviously. That's big time. Maybe why isn't he a gigantic winner? I'm not going to base everything off the 40. He's a good football player too, by the way, at Michigan. But I almost expected him to just kind of be, to test that well. Obviously, with the 40-yard dash, you kind of was almost expected, so I'm not really super shocked. It is always eye-popping, even though when you expect it to see that 40. But he also didn't measure. He actually measured in a little, mainly with the length, the arm length, a little under where I thought. So he is a little on the undersized side, which I knew he was a little smaller, but he actually ended up being, it's almost a negative on the day. He ended up measuring a little smaller in every category. But he did run really, really fast. So you do have to highlight that and talk about that as a positive. Cam Smith, 40 was good. It was in the 4.4s. That's good for him. It's not like a surprising, like shocking, like eye popping, but 4.4s is flying. It's really good for him. Testing was overall pretty solid. Pretty explosive. The on-field drills is actually where he caught my eye. I thought you could debate that he was probably the smoothest mover I'd say Christian Gonzalez probably, but Cam Smith out of the next, the not so obvious, and Cam Smith's a borderline first round, second round pick, so kind of expected from him. But I thought he was really smooth, really quick, really fast. I'm not going to sit here and say because on-field drills like huge winner because of that, because if you're going to watch on-field stuff, I'd rather watch the tape. The athletic traits is what I take mostly from the combine here, even though that's not everything either. But was very much impressed overall. I thought Cam Smith had a pretty damn good day. He's going to stay in the same range, though. A good day, so we'll put him on here. But he's going to stay in the same range. Wouldn't be shocked if he went very late round 1. Wouldn't be shocked if he went early round 2. I mean, he could go middle of round 2 as well. Brian Branch, going to put stock down. I still love Brian Branch's tape. Still a first-round guy. Ran in the 4.5s. That people forget that's still pretty fast. I expect him to be a little faster, and he's going to play in the slot, and he can play a little safety if you need him to as well. So he's not an outside corner, which when you're an outside corner, you got to run a little faster. Just overall, the explosive drills were a little underwhelming as well. I thought he'd be a little faster. I thought he'd be a little more explosive. I thought he'd be a little bit better on the field. I still love me some Brian Branch. That's what's most important. I love the tape. I love the tape. But I thought, maybe a top 10 player because the tape is so good. And it's still a possibility because the slot guy that's pretty versatile is very, very important in today's NFL. More important than before. And he's a good ball player. He's got really good tape there. Really good at man coverage. He'll fly up and hit you. But all these other DBs just, in defenders, I should say. We're only 2 days in the first 2 days we saw the defenders. Pretty damn ridiculous, moving themselves up in the top 10. Maybe that kind of pushes him out. It might be a little scheme specific, like who's going to love Brian Branch. Somebody will love him, like scheme-wise, play style-wise, and then, the measurables and the testing numbers, but maybe it's a little more limited now. Tyreek Stevenson, the Miami corner, used to be a Georgia corner. It's a guy that I like. I like his tape. He's, he'll fly up and hit you, another one of those guys. Pretty physical. I thought, in terms of the testing, he's all right. He's all right. There was nothing wrong really there. On the field, he looked really stiff, really, really stiff to me. So, and I did see that here and there on the tape. And all these other corners are just looking light. There's so many. He's a really good corner too. There's so many good corners. It's just this small thing could kind of push you back, move you up. Because there's so many so good, really good ones. Devon Witherspoon, who's still one of the top corners in the class. A lot of you out there, maybe he's your number one. There's probably some experts that have number one. But, he didn't work out today, which I was very disappointed about that. Really wanted to see him go. And there were some guys that yesterday I was a little disappointed as well because I wanted to see him. I talk about like a guy like Myles Murphy. I almost put him in Clemson pass rusher in day one. I almost put him in the stock down because not only did I want to see him go, but all these other pass rushers like Nolan Smith, Lucas Van Ness were so good. Maybe they're passing him up. Maybe they're already ahead of him. Maybe it was just really close and he didn't go. I thought about that, but then Murphy also, the measurables, everything like that looks good. Witherspoon actually came in a little smaller than I thought he would. He's under 32-inch arm length, which is kind of really sought out for. He's a little tiny bit shorter than I thought. He plays a lot bigger, which is more important. But, yeah, so measuring in just a little, it's not that big of a deal. A little smaller than I thought. And then not working out while, Christian Gonzalez, to me, was my cornerback one the whole way. But Witherspoon's kind of in a battle with a guy like Christian Gonzalez, according to most of us. For him, Christian Gonzalez, to go out and kind of prove people right and then even take that next step, maybe solidifying himself as cornerback one. And then, in my opinion, a guy like Deontay Banks could sneak up as well. Not because the athletic traits, the testing numbers, but the play, but what he can do in being an NFL corner, like he could pass him up as well. And maybe some people are around there with Joey Porter who, maybe a little underwhelming with Joey Porter with the testing numbers, but he was a freaky, lengthy guy as well, kind of like Brents. So that's kind of a win for Joey Porter. So he's kind of on both sides of it. So almost put him actually as a winner because like Brents with that arm length as well. We'll see Witherspoon at his pro day. He's going to have a big pro day. The other Illinois guys were so freaky. I wish Witherspoon was out there. I guess there was some sort of minor injury. It didn't sound like it was that big of a thing. But Trey Dean was probably one of the slower guys out there today, and that's not good. Looking at defensive backs, running in the 4.7s. And it was a guy that, could he be an early day 3 pick? And now I see teams will see that. They may get a little scared about that. So maybe people take that stuff seriously these days, so maybe he just drops down completely. And then Jair Brown, who actually did look pretty smooth on the on-field drills. Him and Christopher Smith were kind of in the same boat. I thought Brown and Smith were pretty good safeties on the actual football field. They looked pretty smooth in the on-field drills. I don't put a whole lot of stock in those because I'd rather watch you in pads run field drills in a real game against another team. But they did look good there, so I do got to credit them there. But a little disappointing, I guess, with the explosiveness drill numbers and then the explosion drill numbers and then the 40s. I mean, mainly with a guy like Brown, who, again, there's not too many great true safeties. It's a bunch of slot guys. I think he kind of had that opportunity to maybe be that number one guy. And being a little slow, I think teams might look at we got a guy like Sidney Brown who can do some similar things, pretty good tape, just as good tape, and we're going to trust him a little bit more because he's more explosive, he's quicker, he's faster, a little more agile that he showed us. So, and those things matter. So I think maybe he took himself out of that conversation for possibly being a true number one safety, the true safety being number one. Christopher Smith was somewhat in that boat. His stock just keeps going down for me. I thought he played very well for Georgia. I did kind of wonder if it was kind of like a scheme thing. No matter who they put back there, it doesn't feel like that for every position for Georgia, but it kind of felt like that a little bit. But he does fly around, make plays on the ball. It was tough for me to figure out. Is he more of a free safety, strong safety? It was tough for me to figure out, but he was pretty good. Senior Bowl in practice, they kind of had him playing single high a bit. I guess they wanted to have him look in the game as well. I didn't think he looked good there. So I think he might be scheme dependent. Is he going to be a split safety guy? Maybe more playing the strong safety in that role, where he can come downhill a little bit more often. But didn't love what I saw at the Senior Bowl. And then here too, the testing numbers weren't great. The RAS score was very bad, actually, which matters, especially for DBs. That was actually very bad. So his stock keeps going down. At one point, maybe talk about him as a late first-round guy, but that's complete. We're talking about round 3, 4 maybe right now, perhaps. And then Jamie Robinson from Florida State, another one of those guys that could be one of the better true safeties, sort of, in the class. And, I wasn't really thrilled on the day completely with him as well, but nothing super negative. And now the safety group, I thought Jason Taylor, we did have a lot of stock downs here, but here's a good one. Jason Taylor, the second safety from Oklahoma State, had some really good numbers as well, pretty good on the field. Did he change his stock a whole lot? He possibly can go earlier day 3 now, perhaps. I like him at strong safety. A lot of these safeties, teams moving around. I thought he made some plays in the back end as well, but I definitely like him as a strong safety. We seen him line up in the box a little bit. Oklahoma State get creative with their defense. He'll line up in the box, almost like a new school type linebacker. I mean, he's not a linebacker, but almost, around that range of the field. And I thought he looked pretty good doing that. So coming out and, he was really explosive. 43 inches, I think he jumped in the vert. So that's fantastic as well. So it's a day 3 guy to maybe keep your eye on there. Jason Taylor, the second from Oklahoma State. But, a lot of fast guys here, which we expect from the corners. I thought Deontay Banks was the big winner. He's been a big winner for me. Like I said, I recently watched him, so excited about that. Martin, too, I think him being a versatile freak athlete guy that can play, inside corner or free safety, I think that's just great for him that he added today on top of that. And then just the freaky lengthy guys, like Brents and Joey Porter Jr. There's going to be teams that want to work with guys like that. The corner class is so good. I mean, we got good guys with their stock going down, mainly because these other really good guys, their stock is going up. But really curious to see if they come off the board. I think Banks a top 3 corner. For some people, maybe he'll be top 5, but to me, that's a lock in the first round. So really excited to see where these guys go. How the corners come off the board and how many come off the board in round 1 in the first 2 days is going to be so intriguing to me, at least. So I'm excited about that. We're going to wait a little bit for that. We still got more combine and we got the free agency before the draft as well. But we have you covered for everything. We'll be doing these videos for every day of the NFL Combine. We already did day 1, of course, so check that out. We'll have a post-combine mock draft, which things will definitely change too. So, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on for your time. Very important to follow our Twitter, live Combine updates, but live everything NFL updates as well. Twitter subs, get some bonus content. Links you're looking for, they'll be pinned in the comments. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.